Good afternoon, friends, and welcome to the Atlantic League Semifinals. I am joined today by Craig Richards. I have happy to have him on the stream. I've joined his channel numerous times to comment on OTSL Game of the Week and other games. So I'm really pleased to have him here today. Craig, thank you for joining. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Really excited for this game.
Yeah, these guys are a couple of great players who are ranked ahead of me in ITSR. So perhaps I can learn from them. As folks probably saw this morning, I have a lot to learn about the game of Twilight Struggle. And so this is game two of the Atlantic League semifinals. As everyone knows, I didn't even make the playoffs, so I know people are going to remind me about that in chat, so I just thought I'd get out in front of it. And these guys are playing for a berth in the finals. Tim won the first game. And so if he wins this one, he'll move on to the finals. If Harry wins, they will move on to game three. So we will, Craig and I are going to be commenting on this one. We're just going to let it go at regular speed today, so we have plenty of time for insights and commentary. So let's get going here. We're going to be watching from Tim's side, and Tim is the USSR today. And as I look at this hand, Craig, I see three four ops, but two of them are pretty poisonous, and then I see a lot of ones. What are your impressions of this opening hand?
Yeah, I think it's a decent hand here. I mean, you're definitely happy to see these 4-up cards in your hand. They're pretty manageable here. Containment could just be played at the end. Marshall can probably just go to space or US Japan and Purge. I think you can spare the ops, or if you want to keep your ops, you can just headline CNS.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about that. You know, obviously with Blockade in hand, Purge is extremely powerful. Blockade and two other four ops in hand. But if you headline Purge, man, you got a lot of one-op plays because I don't imagine you want to give up U.S., Japan, or Marshall early. So I think if it were me, I'd go for CNS and I would hold on to my four ops maybe for a coup. We'll see what Tim decides to do.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. You want to keep some ops in your hand, and like you said, US Japan, Marshall plan, you don't want to give up early.
Yeah, and containment obviously a good card to have, but one you don't want to give up until AR6. So I don't think you want to be stuck with a bunch of one-op plays. Harry looks like, so he's going to go 4-4 and just do it in a weird order. Going to go with the standard kind of conservative setup. This guy's going with a 60-minute game. And let's see what Tim goes with. Oh, you know what? He's going your way, Craig. He's going with the Purge, doesn't get it defectored. And so now let's see how he handles this interesting hand with a lot of fours and a lot of ones.
Yeah, turn one purges USSR could be a huge pain for USA. You have so many things you want to do on your turn. The one bad thing about Tim's hand is here he doesn't have access, so this purge is going to help slow down the US player from spreading.
Yeah, wow. And he goes for space on the first action round. Very interesting. But he gets two VPs for it. And yeah, he doesn't want to give up these four ops. And not a lot you can do with a one op play here, even with the opponent purged.
Yeah, tough spot for Tim having these later ops in his hand. You might see him give up Marshall Plan or US Japan earlier than he wants to, but the quick space could even potentially double space, but then you're not really leaving yourself here for much ops.
Yeah, and he's definitely going to want to event blockade. So if he spends two action rounds spacing, one action round on blockade, and then obviously he evented CNS, that only gives you two action rounds to place influence.
Yeah, going back to
Actually, one.
Harry's opener for headline, I mean, you see Formosa in there, but most of the good blue cards, you don't see Middle East, which is good, but Containment and Marshall Plan are in Tim's hand.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even comment on that because I was commenting on Tim's headline choice. But Formosan is a very weird headline. Obviously suggests that Harry just didn't have anything better. I mean, I would headline something like Special Relationship or Olympic Games over Formosan.
Yeah, and I was thinking if Going Hen Wu had a tough hand here, or Harry Wu, sorry about that, he may have opened a 3-3-2-2. Maybe he didn't have sock govs in his hand. He was a little bit afraid of that, but I would think if he had a tough hand, he would have led 3-3-2-2.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, maybe he's got De Gaulle or Suez in hand and is going to try and get one of those off. Uses Warsaw here. I imagine. What would you do here with Warsaw, Craig? Would you go into Pakistan at DEFCON 5? I like spreading out of Iran if my opponent either doesn't coup it or fails to coup it. Let's see what he does.
Yeah, some players like to play passively and move into Afghanistan, but I think that's wrong. I think you go straight into the battleground of Pakistan and give up the coup. But here you see Harry go Malaysia and into Lebanon to grab the domination at DEFCON 5 still here.
Yeah, it's a little bit confusing to me because it's not a very good bluff. You know that Tim doesn't that you kn- Tim knows that Harry doesn't have the score. He certainly would have headlined it over Formosan. So I'm a little surprised to see him not spread out of Iran. But Tim doesn't really have a good card to coup Iran with.
Yeah, and here you see him make use of that purge. He's going to blockade him, see if he has that 4-op. We knew Tim already had 3 of the 5 4-ops, so maybe Harry gets an empty West Germany here.
Yep. Yeah, no surprise there. Okay, so the one Lebanon makes sense. Now he's going to go Suez and empty first. So that suggests, I would have thought we might see just two Egypt and then let Suez resolve. This says that he wants to go into France with Suez.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, he lost his adjacency to West Germany there. Uh, I think if you're Tim, though, you're happy to see Guang Henwu move into that Lebanon space because that makes value out of your 1-op, so you could coup that to get your presence and take away the domination in the Middle East.
Yeah, I think cooing Lebanon's a pretty good move here, especially because with West Germany and France empty, you want to get Truman out of the deck as soon as you possibly can. You do not want to deal with. You want to make sure that you don't have to deal with that later on. You could even just see Truman resolve the event and then go one West Germany. But I don't know. I think Tim thinking about giving up Marshall here. Well, that's interesting. What do you make of that, Craig? That's so. So you get the third battleground in Europe, obviously very important. But Marshall very effective here for Harry. That's going to help him dodge Middle East domination. Excuse me, dodge Europe domination. So you're just essentially giving up Europe as a draw here.
Yeah, and I think Tim is just content with taking the +1 and not the -5. So his logic is he'll just let him play Marshall Plan, and Tim will be able to use those ops that he desperately needs.
Yep, yep, you're right about that. So that is what Tim decides to do. I think it's a good decision. And now we are at AR3 for the US, and neither player with mill ops.
Yeah, and DEFCON's still at 5.
Do you think we might see the Japan Korea trade here from Tim? You just take US Japan and put all of them into South Korea? Well, if he loses this war, I think we'll see that. Okay. Yep.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
okay, so now I think Tim's got to take South Korea, right? Yep. We're just going to see the trade.
Yep. Puts a little bit of pressure on Pakistan. Tim may give up an early containment here, but I think if possible, he's going to avoid it and coup Lebanon first, but then might follow it up with a coup of Pakistan, perhaps. But
Yeah, he does need to get presence in the Middle East, so I would expect to see a coup of Lebanon. Obviously, Tim, happy to win that war. He gets the two VPs, gets the one influence in South Korea, but he also, and there's a four from Harry, so Harry probably holding decall. Because he could have discarded
yeah,
that to blockade, but decided not to. So I got to think he's got decall in hand. And Tim giving up Truman here, which makes sense. And I would expect to see a coup of Lebanon. What I was going to mention about the Korean War is that it also gives Tim two mill ops, which is crucial when DEFCON is at 5 and neither player has any. And he gets
yeah,
a
especially with
big
these
roll.
1-ops in his hand, he might even hold containment, but I doubt it. But like you mentioned, those two mill ops are very important. Luckily, Tim doesn't fail on the Lebanon roll.
Yep, and Harry's going to try a coup back, and it's just enough to empty Tim out. So an interesting decision here. Tim decides to just use a one-op and fill up Syria, and
Yeah, and I
doesn't.
don't mind this play at all because he's under purge. He's not gonna be able to make use of it, and Harry just needs the space anyway. So
Yep.
he still ends up gaining 2 VP off of that, and DEFCON goes back up to 5.
Yeah, so that's interesting. As U.S., it's often a kind of a no-brainer there to just give up containment in the last action round. Harry could have potentially spaced decall there if he had. I am assuming that Harry had decall because he spaced destall and had to hold a card. Um, but Tim just decides he's going to go ahead and take presence in the Middle East. I think that makes sense. We did not see any scorings turn one. Tim gonna headline Vietnam, which won't give him domination in Asia, but will obviously give him a path to take Thailand. Tim also draws defectors.
Yeah, and another not so hot ops hand here for Tim. I imagine he's just gonna make use of the bonus ops in Vietnam and just take Thailand, put three in there with a two op card.
Yeah, that makes
Special being
sense.
free.
Yeah, he could put three in there with a two, or even two in there with a one. Oh, well, of course, he's got the special, which is free, so I think this is a good play. Gives you Asia domination, something to immediately respond to. And Tim doesn't get any D cards, and DEFCON's still at 5, so CIA going to probably be pretty painless here.
I'll see how Harry wants to respond to this Asia domination here. Could just take India. He can also take Taiwan, but I don't think he's going to have the luxury of doing that to try for his own domination in Asia.
Yeah, he would have to fill up India and Taiwan. Probably not going to be able to do that. Although Tim has garbage ops, we have seen four of the five four ops cards, and we know that Harry's holding on to decall as one of his seven cards. So certainly Harry needs to stop Asia domination here. He could do it by simply putting one in Malaysia, or he could try a coup in Vietnam, or he could take India. Lots of choices here for Harry.
Yeah, and it could have been an interesting turn two headline here for Tim if he would have, if Harry didn't overprotect Italy there, or if Marshall play didn't get played. He had sock govs and Europe scoring in his hand for a potential presence-less Europe score.
Ah, that's true. Yep. Okay, so Harry goes one India, one Malaysia, which stops domination, makes IP war a little less painful. And Tim looks like, okay, so Tim is just going to give up an early CIA here. Not going to wait for DEF CON to get lower. He's going to show a hand that's not terrible, but not very good either.
Yeah, Harry's going to see the Europe scoring, but Europe unlikely to change based off the cards in early war. Let's see what Harry wants to do with this one op, though.
And again, DEF CON is at 5, neither player with mill ops. So we'll see what Tim wants to do. Tim also probably going to want to play UN for ops and hold defectors through would be my guess. So yeah, not sure what Harry does here. I mean, you could try a
I'm
one-op
not
coup
sure
in
what
Vietnam, but then
Tim
you're just
wants to
getting
do
cooed
with
right
this
back. All
one
right.
op as well. Because my initial thought was Tim was looking to get the domination back in Asia, but I don't think CIA is going to be able to do that for you.
No, no,
Resolve
indeed.
it first and place Lebanon, or
Yes.
not Lebanon, Cambodia.
Yeah, I think you could see that if Harry doesn't coup here. I don't think a coup of Vietnam makes any sense.
Yeah, he's also
Yes.
got Afghanistan available because there's one in it from turn one, so maybe Afghanistan would be better.
Oh, that's true. Yep, that makes sense.
That
And
also
Tim
just sets
saying
up.
that.
Sorry, good.
No, I was just saying. Tim saying that Harry must be holding decall, which yes, when you don't discard and when you have a four and don't discard it, that is generally what it means. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, Craig. You were making a point about Asia domination.
Yeah, maybe Tim was thinking about the one point into Afghanistan here. That also sets up a potential flip of Pakistan with the China card and shores up a little bit better for IP war in case of Harry having it.
Yes, we have not seen IP war yet. So Harry does need to watch out for that. Tim with no access to Indonesia or Philippines, though. So I don't think Tim probably is going to be able to win a country count battle. Yep, and he's just going to take Lao, use his Vietnam bonus. The fourth in
Mm.
Thailand, usually unnecessary, but in this case, with DEFCON sitting so high, couldn't hurt. You got no place better to put it. And Harry's going to go ahead and dump the scoring. So what do you do
Yeah,
now if you're Tim, Craig? Do you just
I
dump
think
your
he
own
dumped the
scoring?
scoring.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You want to free up your hand. DEFCON's still high, so you got to coup at some point, and you don't want to have a scoring card in your hand.
Yep. So Tim's got a one op. I assume Tim wants to hold defectors rather than spacing it or UNing it. So I would assume we have a one op play, a three op play, and then a three op play to end the turn. And we're going to get to see some coups here. Harry, without really a good target, obviously you could coup Thailand, but it's sitting at 4. You need a 6 with a 4 op to flip it. And then Tim, with all kinds of good targets, he can go around Pakistan, Panama.
Yeah, there could have been an argument for maybe holding Europe, but Romanian was played on turn 1. That would have
Yep,
given
that's right.
Tim domination, but
Yes, Tim played Romanian for ops on turn 1. And so Tim now going into Israel. So still no mill ops for either player.
yeah, both these players not afraid to keep the DEFCON high.
Can be a little bit of an uncomfortable situation. But this is, yeah, and so Tim, okay, and there's another instance of Harry having to give up mill ops. Harry protecting against the war, and there's a 4, so good move by Harry to shore up Israel.
I'm sure Tim feels a lot better about getting those mill ops, like you mentioned.
Yeah, Tim
Tim
thinking
thinking
about the
about,
event, but instead takes a Middle Eastern battleground, which I like. And then maybe we'll see a coup from Tim on AR6. Should have been Israel? Maybe. Okay. Oh, there's IP War. So Harry did have it. There's a 2-op coup in Lao. He gets a big roll on it.
yeah, and that's going to be nice.
Yeah, nice to have that, but at the same time, not going to affect domination. And Tim going to go for a Panama coup and hit a big roll there. Gets a 5, and now Harry looks like he's going to need to coup if he wants to not lose more VPs to Millops.
Yeah. Harry has an interesting choice here. You could see him coup Vietnam with DEFCON going back up to 5, sets up a bigger realign of Thailand.
Oh, is he going to try and coup out Nasser? Yes. And he hits on the roll, but not as important with Tim and Israel.
Yeah.
Okay, so DEFCON now at 4. And Tim gets D-stall turn 3. Certainly he's happy to see that. That's a very nice redraw for him. He does have 5-year plan, Duck, NORAD. So that's certainly going to be annoying for him.
What are your thoughts about holding 5-year plan here? I mean, the early war regions look pretty safe, so you don't really need to worry about dumping those. But are you still thinking about holding 5-year plan with this hand?
So I like, I don't love holding 5-year plan into the mid-war if there's not a scoring that I'm scared of. So I would be fine dumping 5-year plan, but what I like to discard to a 5-year plan is a 1-op card, something like Blockade or Truman. But there's nothing really good to discard here. He's got IP War, which he probably wants to event, and he's got defectors. He's gonna have to space duck. I don't know. I might just get rid of 5-year plan. This morning, I had a game where I drew 5-year plan as a US on turn 3, and I held it for literally the entire game. Didn't draw any scorings to have to play with it, and it caused me hand management problems for a bunch of the game. Ooh, D-stall into Asia scoring. Now that's 6 countries to just 4. So Tim can't use D-stall to take Asia domination. Never mind.
Yeah, I mean, he could do it if he really wanted to, Afghanistan, Burma, and Indonesia, but I don't think it would be good value for D-Stall. I think you would prefer to get that into South America and Angola.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. He could spend all four in Asian non battlegrounds to get domination, but I don't think that would be wise. So yeah, one Chile for sure. I think one Venezuela for sure, one Nigeria for sure, and Angola. And then you take a duck coup, concede a couple of VPs. Yeah, this is going to work out real nice for Tim as he's going to be able to shut Harry off from a coup. And he gives up two VPs, but Harry's not going to get mill ops either with IP war in Tim's hand. That was a big sequence there for Tim.
Yeah, big turn three, and that D-Stall headline worked out nice.
Yeah,
Holding defectors from turn two.
and now you can space NORAD because you don't have to space duck. Oh, that worked out great for Tim. So now what the heck do you do if you're Harry? Do you go back in and take Iran? Do you go one into Israel? There's nothing you can do about the Americas unless you try Hail
Yeah,
Mary
it's a tough
realigns.
call.
Would you try Hail Mary realigns here?
Um, it really depends on the ops in your hand. Maybe if you have a three or four, you're quite behind in this game, and maybe you need to be a little bit risky and try for these realigns. I don't have the chart pulled up, but a good or three or four op card should be able to knock out one and hopefully two. He does have the big ops card, but he's going to be placing for influence here.
Okay, and then Tim spending a couple in Egypt, which makes sense. Tim saying Argentina was better than Chile. I'm not sure that's the case. One or the other. And so, yeah, not Tim thinking about just one, potentially one in Egypt, and just really Libya is the main prize there. I think if Harry wants to spend three to take Egypt before Sadat, I think he probably says go ahead. But Tim decides to just go ahead and put the two there, which is a conventional play.
Yeah,
Harry did have a
realignment's off the table
theoretical
now.
chance at Asia domination if he filled India and Taiwan, but Tim with the China card and probably a much better hand just didn't want to make a go of it. Wanted to get rid of, wanted to free up his hand a little bit. I think it's the right call.
Yeah, I agree. I think if he would have filled up India, Taiwan, I think you would have seen Tim, like you said, use the China card and just keep being annoying and pestering in Asia and not let that domination get off.
Yep. JR in the chat pointing out the Tim's coup of Panama on turn two, AR6 was, I believe, the first battleground coup of the game, which is always a little bit weird.
Yeah, strange. I thought DEFCON was at four after the end of turn one, but
It was. Did DEF CON get lowered? That's right. No, DEF CON, or did it stay at five? I don't remember. We could have to go back and look at the tape. Regardless,
yeah.
Tim uses defectors, concedes a VP to get into Zaire and spread out in South America. And now Tim with a decision to make as to whether he wants to use 5-year plan or he wants to hold on to it. I don't think I would hold on to it here. Romania, an annoying card for Harry because he's got to spend that op now in Europe.
Yeah, it does help protect against brush war NATO not being active, but you've already lost West Germany.
Yeah, so the fourth battleground in Europe not worth very much. The fifth one, of course, worth quite a lot.
Does get value out of EU now though with Romania, but
Yep. And Tim gets Tim goes into Libya, which makes sense, and covers up Venezuela. So I think Tim would love to get an IP war win, but he also would like to spread out in South America. VOA is a big issue for him. Oh,
mhm.
wow. And a Sock Govs redraw. That's another empty action round for Harry.
Yeah, pretty weak hands for Harry in this match so far.
Yeah, Harry did get two of the four ops, and Tim conceded US, Japan, and Marshall, but he got off purge and blockade. So always rough for the U.S. player when you get purge blockaded on turn one. And Tim going to give up his shot at a roll on Pakistan, I assume here to just America.
Not gonna be a but
Venezuela, and because
mine's in Nigeria because you may see it play.
I agree with you, Chris.
I think it's the right call. Put it in battleground. Worry about
Another
overprotecting
empty
yet.
action round. Wow, another empty action round for Harry as he has to give up to Gaul there. So a rough hand for Harry. That's three essentially zero op cards. And wow, here's some good stuff. And here's also some stuff that the US player would like to have.
Yeah, maybe if I was Harry there, I would just give up France. I mean, protect Italy from brush war, put another one in Greece, but just save those ops to put somewhere else.
Yeah, and yeah, he needs to take Mexico as well. Tim, this is a very nice hand for Tim, but no access.
Yeah, Tim very happy to see that ass knot card in his hand and not in his opponent's hand.
Yeah, so he's going to have to space VOA. I imagine he will UNOAS and probably give Kennedy on AR7. We'll see. But VOA would be a killer for Tim right now, and instead it's in his hand. Missile Envy is going to be a disaster either way. So you don't necessarily
Yeah,
have to headline ABM. And yeah, Tim going to go OPEC.
I think I would rather see any of those other than grain sales there.
Yep. And so CRGs, that's going to go certainly three into the African one stabs, and then maybe one into Indonesia, maybe one into South Africa. Tim's probably, what do you think? Tim's got to repair that and then give up a coup, right?
Yeah, I would think so. He's got ABM, which is nice. So
Yeah, Tim in great shape here. We Will Bury You would have been an interesting headline. JR pointing that out. Um, gets Tim up to 14 VPs, and then you of course you wouldn't have the ops then to fix this unless you wanted to use
yeah,
ABM or
I think it's
China.
a little early for that. Let's the push for 20, but let's see what Tim wants to do here. I was thinking maybe he gets one in Colombia here to grab the domination, but he's going to be a little bit more greedy and go for straight up control so Harry can't dump South America.
Okay, so Tim decides not to take Angola, and he decides to cover up Chile, which maybe he's, I guess, just a bluff. Because I think I'd rather have Angola, but I guess that's just a bluff. So because to tell Harry that hey, I have the scoring, and which if Harry ignores that, Tim wins the game. If he has the scoring, of course, Tim does not have the scoring, but Harry does not know
Yeah.
that.
Even if Harry has it here, he's in trouble
Yes.
right now, scoring South America for 10. Doesn't have that 2 VP presence.
Yeah. Harry goes V or brush war with Asia looking like it is brush war anyway.
Yeah, I think if you had brush war here, it's got to go into South America.
Yep. So Tim taking Chile essentially to protect Angola and inviting Harry to coup in South America instead of cooing in Africa.
Hmm.
But Tim, obviously, in great shape here. He's ahead in battlegrounds in literally every region.
Yeah, and that turn 3 redraw of D-stall was so nice.
Yes, yes. If Tim had
And
not
it was a
gotten the
good play
access
by
there, he would be in be in much different would be in much different board situation. Sorry, go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention. I think it was good early war for Tim there, even with the tough hand on turn one. I mean, he had those four ops, but they were kind of like you wanted to give up later in the turn, and he was stuck with all these one ops, and then maybe a little bit risky with that RSP headline, but it ended up working out for him with the blockade securing West Germany.
Yeah, that play worked out well for him. I don't think I would have played it that way, but it worked out very well for Tim. So he didn't score domination in Europe. He didn't score domination in the Middle East. And I don't think he scored one in Asia either. Um, but
Yeah,
Wines is,
Milops. I think
yeah,
I
Milops
can't
was huge
remember how
for
many
him.
points he got. Two off turn one, one on another turn three, I think it was, and I don't know if he got any on turn two.
Yep, and he also won the Korean War. He just got 4 for OPEC, 2 for the Nazis. So he's adding up points here without scoring nominations, which is something that good players do. There's lot of ways to get VPs. You don't just have to wait till scoring cards come. And more Millops for Tim.
Yeah,
So Harry decides to call Tim's bluff on South America scoring, and Tim doesn't have it, so we will play on.
yeah. Tim didn't have a way to get Milops on the board, but he did have ABM in his hand to secure Milops anyway.
Yep. And that also is a good signal for Harry. They're a good signal for Tim that Harry does not have South America scoring, so Tim can feel better about playing Kennedy here if he needs to, assuming he misses on the roll for VOA or Harry has one small step, something like that. He can play Kennedy for ops and feel reasonably secure in Harry not having South America, because otherwise, if he had it, I think we would have seen a big coup on Brazil there.
Yeah,
Camp David, a good event in this spot, gets you a much needed VP and gets you access to Libya, sets up for Sadat. But Harry just at this point hoping to survive long enough to get to Sadat.
yeah. Harry's not out of it yet. I mean, the board looks pretty dire, and the VP track is at 10, but mid war does offer the opportunity of some good blue events. Although we see two of them in Tim's hand right now, but a grand sales, a brush war, maybe could turn this around a little bit.
Well, and there he is. So that changes things around in the Middle East a little bit. And Tim does miss on the roll, so he's going to have to give up Kennedy. But probably nothing too bad in Harry's hand. Now, what's your ABM target here, Craig? Are you going to coup Algeria with it? Uh,
That's a tough call. I wonder if Tim is thinking about perhaps giving up China card and holding ABM for the headline.
yeah, that is also possible. Because you don't, I mean, a coup of Algeria just, I mean, it's, yeah, obviously being able to flip Algeria is great, but,
Yeah,
this is
I
not a
think
great place for ABM.
Tim may need to get a non-battleground in America, South America. Sure, you don't want to give up that two VP presence, but you also don't want to lose all control if he ends up having Brush War AR7 or something.
Yep. CIA is out of the deck, so Tim doesn't have to worry about, doesn't have to worry about that in terms of giving up China. So, okay, going to go with the coup. Checking out Angola needs a 4 there, just like he needs a 4 in Algeria and would need a 4 in Egypt or Iran.
Hmm.
It looks like, yeah, he's just going to play it for ops.
Yeah, I kind of like getting rid of Asnot since the strong signal was that Harry did not have South America in his hand.
Yes.
Worst thing he could
Yes.
probably dump would be Gunman or something. Central and South America would be the only ones you'd lose a good chunk of VP, and Central right now is 2 points only.
Yeah. And I think Harry would have probably dumped it. He's certainly not waiting for Kennedy to dump Central America. Now, and even as as the USSR, if the US dumps gunmen on turn 4 to Kennedy, like, yeah, that's not great, but it's also not terrible because it means gunmen lives to the late war. Certainly, if the US is stuck holding gunmen and starting from turn 4, it's rare that the US would have to hold it all the way through the mid war and then lose the game in the late war to it. So, okay, well, we'll see if Harry's got any problem cards here. And doesn't discard anything, perhaps afraid of drawing South America scoring.
Yeah.
Oh, bear trap event. Okay, so I'm going to use that to try and get back into this one. And boy, another strong hand for Tim here.
Yeah. Once again, very nice hand here. Even has grain cells to take it away from his opponent and can space it. And the rest of the hand is fairly
Uh,
clear.
yeah, he's going to
Alliance
throw it to the
0
bear
points.
trap.
Yeah.
So yeah, doesn't have to deal with grain sales. Alliance is completely free, and he's got some big 4-ops here. Now, Missile Envy would be tricky in this spot. You can't give up Purge, I don't think, with grain sales in your hand and you being bear trapped. So you probably are going to have to give up a 4-op coup.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Harry fails his first roll, if Tim wants to try and push, be a little cheeky and event RSP.
Yep, yep. But Harry headlines Brush War. I think you got to go into South America with this, right?
Yeah, with Tim bear trapped and if you're holding South America, just brush warring Venezuela would be so good for you right here.
Yeah, I think you need Venezuela here. Panama gives you better odds, as does Libya. Thailand is the same, but Asia's already scored. I think it's got to be Venezuela here.
Yeah, there could be an argument, I guess, for Panama if you have Central in your hand, if you're Harry. That way you can try and push for control of Central.
Yes,
Fidel being
Fidel
in
is
the
gone.
discard pile.
So that is a possibility.
Patrick having nightmares of his turn 5 hand
Yeah.
over in the Pacific on the other side.
So Harry thinking hard about this, perhaps thinking about if he does Venezuela, Tim. Oh, he's going to go Libya. Oh, and he's going to roll a 1. That's a disaster. And Tim out on the first roll. Interesting that we see Libya there and not South America.
Yeah, that means for sure Harry's got to have Middle East in his hand. All right, both players out on the first roll.
So Tim now with the opportunity to take the coup. And since Brushroar went to Libya, would you just take a big swing at Egypt?
Yeah, I could see that.
Nope. Going to go Algeria and roll a. I believe that's that's a big roll. Like he gets a 4 out of that, and so now leads in battlegrounds in Africa. And so Harry could fill up Israel, but that wouldn't give him domination. It would just even things out. It's 4 ops for 1 VP, so I don't think he'll do that.
Yeah, but down 11 VP in South America still to be scored, you might need that 1 VP.
Yeah. We will see what Harry decides to do. Certainly, yeah, OAS is gone, voice is gone, grain is gone, lots of good stuff for the US gone and effectively dealt with by Tim.
Yeah.
Surprised Tim went with a 4-op coup of Algeria there. You only need it was really an anything but a 1 coup. I would maybe you use Alliance there. But yeah, just wanted the big 4. Oh, and Harry's got Africa as well, so has to dump that before Tim gets Dom.
Yeah, and that's going to be 2 points, taking him up to 13.
Yeah, and Tim sensing Middle East scoring in Harry's hand. That's a problem.
Yeah, Israel worth 3 points there.
Yeah, Israel were 3 points to Tim, but only 1 to Harry. And so Tim wastes no time using his other 4-op to secure it. And now
I think
Brush and both gone.
If Harry has Middle East, I think he should have dumped Middle East before Africa. I know Tim doesn't have the domination in Africa, but that's something you could fight in Africa. This domination in Middle East, you can't really fight at all.
No, no. I agree with you, Greg. I think that's yeah. I think Tim got Europe scoring, but other than that, yeah,
Yeah.
Harry's had them all. JR pointing out that Harry could stop Tim's domination by filling Gulf states as the U.S.
Yeah. Block off that redraw of OPEC, I guess.
Yeah. Brush Libya really makes me think Middle East. Yes, Tim. That is a great read. That is an elite read right there.
Yep.
We'll see if Harry does have it though.
Yeah. Junta's still in the deck, so there's a possible out for Harry to get into South America. But like we mentioned, I think he's worried about Middle East right now, uh, considering the strong probability that he has it in his hand.
Yes, seems very likely that he's got Middle East in his hand, um, and that would get Tim up to 17 with two favorable regions left on the board to be scored for him.
Yeah. And I think Gulf States would be a bad play here for Harry. Even blocking the domination, I think Tim would just jam Egypt or Iran back.
Yep. And so, yeah, I like this decision from Harry, and just focus on other regions here. He just wants to improve his lot in Central America and Southeast Asia. I would, if Tim wants to space, I think I would deal with Alliance here. I'd like to get Alliance out of the deck. I don't know how helpful that is with Africa already scored, but I think Harry will probably ignore that. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Oh, he doesn't ignore it. Just fills up Africa. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a little bit strange. I thought he might just go two Cuba, one Guatemala there. But I
Yeah.
mean, Tim filling up South Africa leads to a potential control of Africa for red. So
Yep.
maybe long term, if he can somehow turn this around, South Africa is the better play.
That's true. Yes, it is the better long-term play, but Harry right now has to worry about getting to turn 6 rather than what's going to be best in final scoring. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, Francie Pants pointing out, I'm not sure there's going to be a long term.
Craig, we called it. We called it. He had Middle East scoring in his hand.
Oh my goodness, that is such a pro level read right there. I
We
don't
are
know how
so
anyone
smart.
could
We're so
think that.
smart. So Tim decides to space Alliance and to try and advance on the space track. Doesn't get the roll. Doesn't want to give up the 1 VP. Omit could be big for Harry if he can
Yeah, if
dig
this
out
hits
South
South
America.
America.
Obviously, that's the one he's looking for. As we've seen OPEC. That's not the one. That's not the one.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think if you're Harry, you're leaving like neutral cards like Junta in the deck because you need those cards to try and turn this game around.
Yes, for sure. Portuguese, yeah, and Harry's not even in Panama, so we can't do anything like go in Colombia or poke or jam anything. And wow, here are some scorings, and this is probably GG. This is almost certainly
Yeah.
GG. Lives for one Mexico, one Cuba, one Guatemala, followed by Central America scoring for a presenceless domination. Will end it, even if somehow Harry finds a way to deal with South
Yeah,
America.
has Junta here. It's not going to matter.
Yes, because Junta certainly will be going into South America. Puppets.
There's
That is
puppets,
not
and
good
that's
enough.
going to be GG.
Yeah. So congratulations to Tim. Well played by Tim. Tim moves on to the finals. of Atlantic League. A heck of a run by Harry. He moves to the third place game, where he will face the loser of Josiah Emery and Gabriel Panic. That will bring that semifinals to you on a later date. And but Tim, moving on to the finals. Last year he made the playoffs in Atlantic League, but didn't make it to the semifinals. So a nice run for Tim here, and looking forward to more Twilight Struggle action from him. But Craig, this was an interesting one. It got, as my friend Ted Livermore likes to call it, high defcon weird in the early war, and and then finally we got to a more normal game in turn three, and that turn three D-stall redraw was just enormous.
Yeah, for sure. And I always like the games that have that high defcon in the early war. It puts a lot more thought into it. Sometimes early war can get kind of brainless where you're just moving into battlegrounds, but when defcon's high like that, it makes you stop and think for a little bit longer.
Yep, no question about it. And Tim going to just go ahead and score South America and get this win. And Harry, oh well, if Harry had won, his rating would have gone over 1900. Tim knocking at the door of 1900. So these are two of the very best. And these guys, I think Tim made sure to point out to me in our group chat today that he that he leapfrogged me in the ITSR ratings. So I was in the top 10, he was not, and now we will flip flop that. So I'm no longer the highest rated player there, but I'm just going to keep my head down, do my best, and try and play a little bit better.
Yeah. Regardless, still very impressive. Both players in the top 25.
Yeah, both these guys are great players. It's fun watching them play. It's fun calling their games on these nice weekday afternoons, and got a lot of viewers on this one. A dozen or so people tuned in. So I think, Craig, your star power drew people to my channel.
Oh yeah,
So
for sure.
Very much appreciate that.
I think people are catching on that Justin, he's one of the top commentators. I always appreciate your broadcasts and hearing you got the real announcer voice there.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to be able to use those skills as Tim gets a little bit of revenge. So, and that's sometime before the. But I really appreciate everybody.
Thanks for having me on your channel. I really appreciate it. And love it with us.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Craig. That is appreciated. I love broadcasting these high-level games and love being a member of the community. Everybody's been always really supportive, and that's what's been great about it. And obviously, I have you to thank for bringing me into it. And my first league was OTSL, so I certainly won't forget my roots in that regard. But until next time, folks, thank you for tuning in. For Craig Richards, this is Justin Abramson signing off for now. That was fun, but now it's done. So long, everybody.